What's good, friends? This is episode 36 of the Gamecast coming at you. There's no doubt about it, cloud gaming is the future of video games. From Project xCloud to Google Stadia and everything in between, it's only just begun. But are we ready for it in 2020? This week, Mike and I sit down and try to answer that very question. Is Microsoft putting a higher emphasis on cloud gaming than the public is ready for? Will Project Lockhart end up being an xCloud box? Plus, Bungie is removing paid loot boxes from Destiny 2. Kinda. We've got all of this and much more on the newest episode of the Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, including news, rumors, and them damn good conversations over them damn good video games.
Wait a minute. What if I want to do the intro for once?
I mean, you could do the intro.
I mean, I just have never done it. I feel like you're carrying the squad.
I mean, you can go ahead.
Is it in the
Joining me today, as always, my partner in crime, Mike P-Pack. Mike, go ahead and do the intro.
I don't have the script.
I don't have a script either. It's off memory now at this point.
Okay.
I was gonna say, try. I want to hear your own take on it.
All right.
And this is no like sour grape. I just literally want to hear it because if it sounds better than mine, we may go with yours instead.
Okay. Here we go. In 3, 2. What's going on, Gamecast listeners? This is your co-host, Mike P-Pack, starting us off with an intro, a little different than the flavor you might be normally used to. This is basically a show where we're going to talk to you about all those damn good video games, primarily in the Xbox sphere, but we are going to cross lines because it's our show and we're going to do whatever the hell we want. Joining me, as always, is going to be the host that usually does this intro, and it's usually a lot more fluid and well thought out, but this is off the cuff here. Travis White. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to go over some news and some headlines, and then we're going to get into a deeper segment where we're going to kind of, share our own opinions on everything throughout the whole show, but the end is going to be like the creme de la creme of the entire show. But normally what we do in this situation is we kind of ask each other what we're playing, and since I hardly ever get to ask Travis what he's been playing lately, it's going to be my pleasure to bring on my co-host, Travis White, aka Travlis. Travlis, what have you been playing, my man?
Mike, what's going on? It's your boy, Travis White, aka Travis on most internet platforms. That was awesome. That was good. That was much... No, and I'm not saying this sour grapes. That was much better than I thought it'd be, because if that was my first time doing that, I'd be like... Please, shout out to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I just threw it out there. We just went with it. We went for it.
I like it. Anyways, Mike... I've been good, and I've been playing a little bit of everything. Been playing some Overwatch. The one thing, like I said, and like you said, so eloquently, there we go, words, they're tough sometimes. Eloquently, in your intro, we primarily stick to Xbox, but it's our show, so guess what? We'll talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. And we are accepting of all people who game on all platforms. As we always said, we've been doing this now for 36 episodes. If you don't get that by now, then you just aren't going to get it. But... keeping in line with that, I finally platinumed Uncharted 4. Obviously a PlayStation game. Okay. That has been, it's one of my top 3 games of all time. That was, and a lot of you guys know too, I put up a tweet a while ago at the beginning of the year, and I've gotten some great feedback from listeners, like just mostly as a discussion piece, but at the end of the day too, it's an objective list of what I want to do this year in gaming before... Outside of all the new games that are coming out, which throws a big wrench into all that, but before next-gen consoles come out. So basically, it's just like a little checklist of things I want to make sure I do before the new console generation starts and this one ends. I hate using objective because that has such a negative connotation to it, like, oh, I'm forced to do this. It's mostly to whenever... I get in that mood, like, man, I want to play something, but I don't know what I want to play. Okay, I could just pull up this list and be like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I said that would be fun to do. I want to play that game. So it's kind of been going off of that whenever I get into that mood. So that was one of the things I wanted to go back and do. But that's PlayStation. that's different conversation for a different time, even though we will talk about it from time to time. But on side of Xbox and PC things, been playing a little bit of Overwatch, gotten back into that recently. Fun as hell still. You've heard me talk about it before. Still one of those things that it's just great to pick up and play. That it's easy. It's very easy to play, easy to understand, hard to master. At least personally, just because there's such a broad range of heroes and different playstyles, yada yada. Outside of that, too, I've been playing a little bit of The Division 2. Jumped back into I literally went through maybe 10 levels when it dropped in like March. It was the first time I played a Division game going into that last year when it launched. It's a great game. It just kind of hit at the wrong time where I was feeling other things and ready to play other things, and other things were coming out at that point that it was like, it came out and just, I didn't have the time to invest in a looter shooter like that. But now that, I have a couple of friends at work who play it and different things like that, and it's dirt cheap to get into right now, even though I already bought it previously and I got the year one pass with it originally, so like I have all this content to play through. So I've been thinking about going through and just kind of playing that when I'm, have some downtime between games. Like I said, the next big game that's coming out, obviously Doom Eternal, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at length at some point. But with that being like the next big game that's coming out, between that and then Final Fantasy VII, really, there's not too much in between there. I may play Animal Crossing, but once again, that's kind of a time sink. Adam's all in on that, but that's more of a pick up and play type of thing. I'd like to try to jump into that world, and I really love. I think the third-person shooting mechanics are so tight. The loot system seems rewarding, even though I'm never a big like balls deep into, like I said, the minutia of looter shooters. If I'm gonna play a loot grinding game of any sort, it's usually a Diablo, it's usually a RPG-esque in terms of the traditional high fantasy or gothic, yada yada, not necessarily militant or RPG like that. So, but love it. It's a great game. I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm excited to jump back into that. Molly and I, my fiance, are planning to hopefully finish. We haven't had a chance to play it recently, but I'm hoping tonight maybe that we can jump back and finish up Life is Strange Before the Storm, the little prequel side story before we jump into Life is Strange 2. So yeah, that's about it on my end. Mike, what have you been playing, man? And then first of all, before we should have even though you jumping in, wanted to do the intro, kind of threw me off from everything. A very, very happy birthday. I
wanted the show to be about me.
Yeah, true. Very true. Exactly. Mike is, what, now 22?
Yeah, 22. We'll go with that. That's better than
27.
Whoa, who said that? Adam came back from the dead?
Yeah, Adam Undertaker sat up and just was like, 27. No, but happy birthday, Mike. Everyone make sure whenever this episode drops, it'll be a couple days old, but make sure you go out there, wish him a happy birthday, give him some sweet, nasty love. Everybody deserves a little bit out on their birthday. So, but Mike, what's good, what's going on, and what have you been playing, my friend?
I mean, everything's coming up Millhouse. I got approved for that travel grant to the Philippines, so I'll be going to the Philippines thank you. I have it scheduled for like 11 days right now. I might extend it to like 15 to 16 days. After doing a little bit more research on the trip in general, it looks like there is just so much to do in the Philippines, and getting to actually experience it for a length of time, that's going to be sufficient for me to travel to a few different islands, because it's kind of like Hawaii. It's an island system, and they have domestic flights that'll like take you an hour and a half to another island, or you can ride on the ferries. They have overnight ferries for like $20 USD, but it's like a 6-hour or 7-hour trip. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that trip. More importantly, besides it being my birthday, the games I've been playing, they kind of shadow dropped Halo 1 on us, which, hey,
hell yeah, they did.
I don't really care. I'm enjoying the fact that they shadow dropped it for me, but I've been playing a lot of Halo 1 on PC, just kind of getting back into the doubles sphere and just trying to enjoy it the best I can. From there, I've been playing NHL, Smite, and I've actually been kind of like deciding on what I was going to kind of dive into next. And I think the Ori franchise is the one that's going to get my attention next.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to dive into playing some of the Ori games. So that'll be the next game I dive into.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, finishing Doom because we want to do a Doom review on that. So I'm working on that at my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
But once I get closer to the due date, just like in everything in my life, I'll crunch it and get it done. But that'll be the next thing I do is Ori for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Ori, great game. I'm like literally 90% through Ori and the Blind Forest. I just need to finish it. Literally started it last summer finally and was blown away by it, but just one of those things that something else came out. I think it might have been like Super Mario Maker 2 came out and just was an instant like, well, I'm playing this now. So I'm with you. I need to go back and finish that, so I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Excellent game. I'm really excited for Will-O-the-Wisp just because it seems like they've evolved that game more than what I could have even thought it could have been. So I'm excited to see how that kind of nets out. Looking forward to that. But yeah, Doom, man, like I keep talking about, we're going to hopefully do a Doom episode next week. That's the plan. We got to check with our boy Mike Collins, see if he's able to do that. But the plan is next week to do a traditional, for all you OG fans out there of the Game Pass Gamecast, you'll remember our review episodes that we do every now and then that were a staple early on. We still do them. We still have plans for them. Don't worry. But you're going to see that hopefully make a return. We're going to kind of go through and set the table for Doom Eternal by going back and looking at Doom 2016. One of my favorite games from this gen, and really I would say probably top 5 all-time first-person shooter campaign. But we'll have to see how that shakes out because I want to go back through and play it yet again. But excellent game. But speaking of Doom, Mike, before we get into the news, I gotta know, are you hyped for Doom Eternal?
I sure am. I am very hyped for Doom Eternal.
I'll be quite honest. Right now, and you know, if you're driving your vehicle right now, if you're an audio listener, because that's really all we have. We are on YouTube, but there's no video with it. Let me set the stage for you. If you're driving your car, I want you to pull over on the median. I want you to close your eyes. Yeah, that's right. I said pull over on the median. Just mount the fucking curb in the middle. Go up on there. Close your eyes. Stop traffic right before the Squirrel Hill Tunnel in Pittsburgh. Just sit there, close your eyes, and imagine this. Imagine one, pretty decently out of shape man, but not like overtly fat. I wouldn't think he is. He's a little chunky, but he's not fat. You're just like, oh, that's a dude who likes food, but he's not fat. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Imagine just that man thinking about Doom Eternal, and you just see from tit high just glass being cut when I think about ripping and tearing. So that tells you that I am goddamn hyped. Because plot twist, that man is me. I'm fucking hyped for Doom Eternal. So, we are, and we want to make sure you're in on the action. So, we're giving away one free copy of Doom Eternal for Xbox One or PC to one lucky listener, and entering is very easy. I mean, it's fucking really easy. So, first thing you gotta do, follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Retweet the pinned tweet about the contest on our page, and boom, that is it. You are entered. But, if you want to improve your odds of winning, you can get an extra entry by tagging a friend in the tweet about the contest. So then, at least, if you're like me, super unlucky, never fucking win anything. Actually, the one thing I did win, I remember, one thing I did win was this random, kind of like town fair type thing I remember back in the day, was with a high school girlfriend at the time, won a big panther type thing. She didn't want to keep it, so I was stuck with this panther. I remember bringing it home, our dog Murphy, R.I.P. I remember him, as soon as I brought it home, I left it sitting on the couch. I come back 2 minutes later, he's humping it. So, that's literally the only time I've won anything, and it ended up in me kind of getting fucked in a weird roundabout way. And not in a good way. So, anyways, if you're unlucky like me, hopefully you have a buddy who wins, and you can mooch off them. Because that's always easy to do. So, I'll also have a tweet to the contest, a link to the tweet and to the contest in the description below. So make sure wherever you're listening to this show, just check down below into the description because you'll literally have no excuse to enter then. So we'll pull a winner next week. You have 1 week. You have less than a week actually since this goes live. You have less than a week. On March 13th, we're going to pull the winner for that episode. So you got to enter by March 12th, 11:59 p.m. So basically midnight. 9 p.m. Pacific Coast. If wherever the fuck else you are in the world, figure it out. As long as it's in that parameter at that time and you're entered, you're golden pony boy. So head on over to @GPGC Podcast today and enter. I don't want to do the same boring ad read every time or giveaway read. You got to spice it up because I'm all about getting away from the monotony. Life's meant to be lived, Mike. It's not stagnant. Sometimes you just gotta, just gotta be fucking 4 sheets to the wind or whatever they say. Is that a saying? I don't know. 4 sheets to the wind? I don't know. Anyways, Mike, let's head into before I fucking take us off the rails, let's head into the news today. First news story, Destiny 2 is getting rid of loot boxes, sort of. There's a, little hyphen or asterisk. Asterisk's the word. Yeah, grammar. Anyways, this comes from Zuhad Ali over at the Gaming Post. Link in the description. Make sure you go over there and give him a click. So, it reads, Bungie has announced that they will be removing Bright Ingrams, aka their loot boxes, in Destiny 2. This change will occur with the start of the next season, Season of the Worthy. Last week, Luke Smith released a Director's Cut blog post where he talked about the past, present, and future of Destiny 2. Quote, for Season 10, we're doing away with Bright Ingrams as purchasable items. We want players to know what something costs before they buy. Bright Ingrams don't live up to that principle, so we will no longer be selling them on the Eververse store, though they will still appear on the free track of the Season Pass, says Luke Smith. This doesn't actually mean that Bright Ingrams are getting removed completely in Destiny 2. It looks like players will still be able to unlock Ingrams from Season Pass by simply playing the game. We'll have to wait a little bit more for more details about Bright Ingrams in Destiny 2 in the coming weeks. So, basically, Bungie is technically getting rid of loot boxes in the paid form of, hey, like Overwatch. If you keep playing games, after you get a level, you get a loot box. But if you want, you could just go and you could pay 99 cents and open a loot box. Same with CSGO, you name it. Any game, basically, that has a multiplayer component, especially one like Destiny 2 now that are free to play. That's how they monetize the game mostly. But they are removing that away. You're still able to unlock them, but literally just from playing the game, comparatively at least. So, Mike, my question really is, do you think as we head into next gen that, and we're already starting to see it, but the Battle Pass system that was kind of, I would even say, revolutionized by Fortnite, really, that's where you saw it kind of take flight and really start to spread into so many other games because of Fortnite successfully doing it at, hey, pay $5. You can play for free, no problem, but you can pay $5 and literally get even more unlockable content by just playing the game. But all you gotta do is $5, that's it. Do you think that system of the Battle Pass will eventually fully take over, blind loot boxes due to consumers pretty much calling bullshit on the blind bag approach of years past?
I definitely think it's something that we're gonna see for the foreseeable future. Basically, you've touched on a few reasons as to, why I think this is going to be something that sticks around, but more so, it's a very reasonable way for game companies and design companies to provide more content at cost for the consumer. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit less there's a lot more incentive for people to spend less money on this than just straight up DLC. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like it doesn't have the same negative connotation as DLC did, because basically what game companies were doing is they were releasing unfinished products and then charging you for a DLC that basically would finish the game. Yeah. So I was really happy to see a lot of companies go to this Battle Pass system, and it's a lot cheaper for the consumer to enjoy. So I definitely think we'll see this Battle Pass system continue for us. It's a better way, to charge a little by little here and there for people that really enjoy the game and want more content or want new skins or whatever the case may be. But it's, like I said, it's just not straight up like a money grab thing. So I like the Battle Pass. I hope it sticks around because it's something that I will support for games that I really enjoy.
No, definitely. I totally agree with that. To me, this is the answer to, how there's such a fine line with games, especially like Destiny 2, like Fortnite, like Apex, that you look at and, the developer says, okay, we put out this free-to-play game, It's very successful. How do we make money on it? But how do we do that in a way that isn't going to scare our consumer base away? We don't want to be... You don't want to go down the path of the cheap-ass mobile game way. Which, hey, no offense to people who play mobile games or develop mobile games. Totally understand, because these are real human beings at the end of the day making this game. This is a business model it's a business. It's designed to make money. These games are consumer products. At the end of the day, they're toys for all ages. So they're designed to make money. You got to make money on it somehow. But if you're taking a free-to-play approach, it's finding that way to skate the line of, okay, we have this game out here, super successful, we got to make something on it, but we don't want to scare that player base away or have that stigma of, oh, it's just a monetized piece of shit, or I can play 2 games a day, and then I got to wait for 6 hours. It's like, nah, like you can find in some mobile games. But, I was playing right before you got home and we started recording. It was one of those things like, I have 20 minutes, like, I'm just kind of sitting here, I already got, like, stuff ready for tomorrow, yada yada. It's like, I have a couple minutes before we start recording. Like, I want to play something. I don't want to play a game of Siege. I don't want to necessarily jump into a game of Overwatch. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to jump into Fortnite. I haven't played it in forever. I'm probably going to die, but I'll be in and out in 2 minutes, and, like, I'll at least get to jump in. And it's one of those things that they keep... I may not like Fortnite. I may not like Battle Royales that much, but I respect the hell out of the business model they take in terms of... They design it so well Epic designs it so well in terms of, here is a AAA, hell, even quadruple A polished experience of, you're getting this, what would traditionally be a $60 game for free, but you don't ever have to pay a dime. If you really don't want to, you just want to jump in, cool. By all means, go ahead, and it's playable on every single fucking platform you could think of, and it runs, at minimum, great on every platform. It runs on your fucking phone, it runs on your Switch, it runs on your Xbox, it runs on everything. So it's at that point where, okay, I've gotten, there's people who, that's the only game they play, and they've gotten thousands of hours out of it, and maybe they put in $50, $60. But at the end of the day, they don't need to. And it's almost at that point of, oh, okay, well, I've gotten 500 hours out of, Fortnite this year. Yeah, I'll give you $20 or whatever. I'll buy a couple skins. I'll buy this. Like, where it's almost a goodwill thing type of thing. From a consumer end of, we see the value in this. We don't mind giving you $20 to keep the lights on. Granted, Epic doesn't need $20 to keep the lights on. They're fucking swimming in money. But point being, it's a much more transparent way. And it's a much more consumer-friendly way that, we're so far past when Call of Duty first started doing... season passes in terms of map passes and this and that, and going down the route of pay to win with a lot of EA games, Ubisoft titles in the early part of last decade. Like, it's just, we've gone so far past that consumers are so smart that they've grown up with that, knowing, okay, this is a waste of fucking money. And now those kids of that generation are in the position now where they're the ones with the disposable income and they're wanting to keep gaming, but they're calling bullshit on a lot of this. So it's great to see that, developers are taking that approach of, hey, we know this model isn't feasible anymore. We're going to go this model of, you pay $5, $10 every 10 weeks or whatever it is. You get all of this and more, and you're going to get your money's worth from playing this time. Like, you're going to get from what you put in, you're going to get the most out of that we can offer you. So I think it's really transparent. I think it's really good. But let's move to our next one, Mike. This is a report that we got coming out of Tech Raptor. Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft supposedly implicated in Chinese forced labor camps. This is written by Patrick Peralt over at Tech Raptor. As always, link in the description. Let's jump into it. So, Patrick writes, reports have surfaced and implicated Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, the 3 main game console makers, on using what is essentially Chinese slave labor in order to build their consoles and devices. In a newly released Australian Strategic Policy Institute report, the report states that 80,000 Chinese and other ethnic minorities were sent to work in factories across China between 2017 and 2019, with the figure stipulated as, quote, conservative and the actual figure likely to be far higher. The workers also have assigned minors and have limited freedom of movement as well, included constant surveillance, and they are also forbidden from participating in their own religious activities. There isn't much within the actual report about the companies involved in this debacle, just that they are implicated in, quote, directly and indirectly benefiting from the use of workers outside of Xinjiang through potentially abusive labor transfers programs as recently as 2009, which is concerning to say the least. There have been a few statements from the named companies. Apple, who are among the 83 companies named in the report, released a statement, quote, Apple is dedicated to ensuring that everyone in our supply chain is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve, said spokesman Josh Rosenstock. We have not seen the report, but we work closely with all of our suppliers to ensure our high standards are upheld. Overall, the report explores a few solutions, such as China ensuring their own citizens receive, quote, civil, cultural, and labor rights, and to ensure that all of their citizens can, quote, freely determine the terms of their own labor and mobility, basically treating all of their citizens as equal human beings. So, obviously, sweatshops. Not good. Not something you should do. Not something that any business should really partake in. You know, hopefully some rectification can come to the Chinese citizens who were treated this way, but in terms of actually affecting the upcoming console releases for Microsoft, specifically with the show, Mike, do you see this having an effect on the timeline for the Xbox Series X paired with the rising complications even involving the coronavirus? Do you see all of this playing into potentially a delay, a pushback of 4 to 6 months?
Yeah, so to clear the air, it's Xinjiang is how it's pronounced. Yeah, so that's how it's pronounced. Evidently, it's Mandarin. So obviously, people who are who speak English predominantly are normally very poor at Mandarin. It's very difficult to make the sounds appropriate. So,
fun fact: we should definitely get the Invisible Man, John Cena, on this podcast. He obviously listens, but he's basically like fluent in Mandarin at this time. I swear to God, like he knows Mandarin. He's
wow.
like I remember reading something in college about it that he was like the spokesperson for WWE in that part of China with the Mandarin people, like because he was like learning how to speak it. So he was basically like the liaison for the company.
So we'll archive that and things I didn't think I would ever hear. But
right, yeah, hey, the Invisible Man, you can't see him.
What a god.
Yeah.
Anywho, I do think that this is like this situation, not only with the potential of these sweatshops existing. I think everyone's aware that whether or not you make jokes about sweatshops, I think everyone knows that labor in China is predominantly cheaper, usually have a lot less labor rights to defend the workers. There's little to no labor rights for employees of companies. So there is potential that this could be the real deal. Like it could be a thing. It's not something that like I feel I can make a judgment on because it's something that I've heard has, been the truth or, like it's been the case, but it's not something that I like have actually confirmed. I think this whole, basically, for lack of better terms, PR shitstorm for all the companies, plus the spread of the coronavirus. I mean, it's no secret what it's done to the stock market in America and around the world, since it's now a complex global economy. And I think we're going to see a shortage of a lot of things, and these gaming systems might wind up being delayed because there have been shutdowns of all these manufacturing companies and manufacturing plants in China because they're trying to stifle the growth of the coronavirus. And the NHL is going to see a potential shortage in their sticks if players break enough sticks, because companies like CCM and companies CCM is one. I don't want to say for sure what another company would be because I think Warrior actually. I'm pretty confident that it's Warrior also. They have their sticks predominantly made in China, and there's a potential that there's going to be a shortage of those sticks in the NHL because because those factories are shut down right now to stop the spread. So I think like if you just take the evidence of other manufacturing I guess you could say, markets in the region, other things are going to be short because the fact that they're shutting down all these factories. I think that Xboxes, PlayStations, things of that nature, basically anything that's manufactured in China is going to be short right now because they are having issues with the spread of the coronavirus, and they're shutting down factories because they're trying to prevent the spread of it, which makes sense. It's going to suck to be just a global citizen, just whether you're purchasing things. I mean, a lot of things you purchase have parts made in China. So I think we haven't seen the wide range of effect that it's going to have on us as Americans, let alone everyone else as Europeans, Asians, whatever. I think everyone's going to have a bit of an issue there. And I don't think the gaming industry is going to be immune to that. I do think we're going to see a problem. Now, granted, if they stifle the spread of coronavirus in China because they have been a lot stricter on the spread of it because they've been, keeping people home, they've been quarantining people, they've been developing tests to test people for this particular, strain of infection and virus. I think, there's always a potential that we could see a big change in whether it's being spread or not. So there's a potential that we might not be delayed. But I think like right now, if you had Vegas odds out there, which there might be, I think that it would be a favorite to be delayed right now. Basically, each system would be favored to be delayed right now, or at least there be an extreme shortage. And kind of like the old Xbox 360 when it was released, there might be a shortage, and it might be actually very hard for you to get your hands on it. And people might start reselling them when they get more than one, like they did for the Xbox 360 on eBay when whatever it was at release. I don't really remember. It's been a while. I could Google it, but let's say whatever it was at release, it was $200 or $300 more on eBay to get one. So that might be a situation that occurs too, which, by the way, I'm not big on the reselling thing. I will resell tickets if I can't use them. And if the fair market value is higher, I will make the price higher because I see it as like I'm missing out on that experience. But I'm not one who would support someone basically getting an extra system or two just to sell because they don't want it and they just want to make the money. You know what I mean?
Right. No, 100%. I'm right there with you. And I think that's the more likely thing to happen. And granted, at console launches in general, I mean, look at the Nintendo Switch, the most recent formal new console to come out, not in a half generational step up like the Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, what have you. A true next console to come out, it faced shortages. I mean, people weren't able to buy you. If you didn't pre-order it, there was a good chance you weren't going to have it for at least a couple of months. So I think that's going to happen in general. Now, granted, I think it'll be hit a little harder than usual, but especially it may not be as drastically different given, I'm sure, especially on Sony's end, they're probably looking at it as, we got 104 or 106, whatever it is up to now, PlayStation 4s in homes right now. So they're in full market control. I'm sure, are thinking, okay, this time around, we feel comfortable manufacturing X amount more PlayStation 5s to release later this year that we could have at launch because people are going to want to buy that. They're going to want to buy the next one. Just because the data shows there are already so many people in this ecosystem, there's a better chance they're going to continue with that. So I could see that, but it may even kind of equal out. Now, Xbox, it's hard to say. You never know just how they're going to, because it's so hard to handle, or it's so hard to see. I don't want to say it's hard to see, but it's so different comparative to Sony of how they're handling next gen already. With, hey, as long as you're playing in the Xbox ecosystem, you have just as much importance as everyone else. Whether you're playing on Xbox One, the original launch one, Xbox One X, Xbox One S, or our new Series X model that's coming out, you're in our ecosystem, and PC. So it's more of a platform than a system. So it's weird how they're going to handle that, or what their numbers are going to look like in terms of inventory they're shipping out for sale on day one. Not sure, but I think it's more of that we'll see maybe a more limited amount in production, because I would imagine production either started or is going to start relatively soon. I would have to think, if they're shooting for, just throwing a date out there, early mid-November, That's when it seems like consoles traditionally launch, at least in the past couple of ones that have lined up with this window, the holiday 2020 window. But a little bit of breaking news just because it plays into this. Los Angeles declares state of emergency. E3 team is, quote, actively assessing the situation. So, GDC canceled, or at least postponed, but it's probably canceled, just because that's such a big thing to try to, go back and do. But let me just read this. This comes an update really to Rebecca Valentine's story over at GameIndustry.biz, but an update to her story by her. With the city of Los Angeles having declared a state of emergency today, the ESA has issued a new statement on the situation. Quote, the health and safety of our attendees, exhibitors, partners, and staff is our top priority. While the ESA continues to plan for a safe and successful E3 show June 9th to June 11th, 2020, we are monitoring and evaluating the situation daily. So that kind of says now, and I want to throw this to you, Mike, just as we kind of start to round out news here before we get into our big topic, just because this is, as I said, breaking now. Just a gut reaction, because we talked about E3 a lot on the show before. How about this? I throw it out as a statement. I want you to tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree. If E3 is canceled, or at least in the sense of it's postponed or whatever, it's restructured because of this, and publishers and hardware manufacturers, PlayStation wouldn't be there, but Xbox, Microsoft, Nintendo, EA, you name it, these big publishers who were always there, and these hardware manufacturers who were there at the actual expo, if they all pull out and they go, Nintendo Direct style, they do pre-canned presentations and whatnot instead, that kills E3 in terms of, I don't think those publishers come back to E3. They see how much money they're saving by being forced to go this route to get their information out, and I think that stops E3 in the sense that it is fully now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair opinion on the situation. I definitely think that we could see the death of E3 with something like this. Now, we knew E3 was in a fragile state. We knew that there were a few companies that were kind of going. I think it was more of like almost like a traditional thing. It was like everyone was kind of wanting to, support something that they have been supporting for a long time.
It's been a staple for 20 years.
Exactly.
It's one of those things that, yeah, why wouldn't we go to E3? That's how everyone gets their info. It's the Super Bowl of video games for the most part. That it's this one staple that is in the gaming ecospace every single year at the same time. It is always there. That's where all the big announcements are. It's just how it's always been since, the late 90s for the most part, in terms of that's where, traditionally early on, it was, truly only industry members and people were there doing literal, like, shareholder meeting-esque presentations. Now it's pomp and circumstance. It's now all streamed, yada yada. But, it's always been a tradition. You're right. It had that mindset, but now Nintendo out here doing their Nintendo Directs, doing their, hey, let's show a pre-can thing. Why would we spend, why would we pay, I'm sure thousands and thousands of dollars to rent out a hall or a theater in LA at the convention center, where they're the real ones who are kind of screwing everyone over because they keep jacking prices up. Why would we spend all that money to do that when we could literally in Redmond, Washington, sit there, record this in our own studio, and put it out for fucking nothing? And we can get even more buzz over that. Everyone can see it. Everyone will have it. People, the media members who need to know ahead of time to make sure press releases, or news articles are out and everything like that, they'll know. We don't have to keep everyone in, nobody needs war rooms necessarily. We can just literally, you'll know ahead of time, we'll have this all here and we'll save millions of dollars probably at the end of the day after, shipping everything out and whatnot. Save all that money that we can put back into our games.
Right, exactly.
Or pay more people. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I just think if that happens, if the coronavirus, which obviously I believe in science, I'm not an idiot. I'm in the camp of you take precaution when needed by all means. Who knows if it will be blown out? Who the hell knows? But I'm always one to say I don't understand it enough that I'm gonna let the people who do this for a living, who are experts in that field, they make the best judgment call, and the best judgment call is to be in a state of emergency for the city of Los Angeles. But by all means, fucking cancel E3 then, and at that point, I think that kills any inclination of those publishers coming back and those entities coming back.
No, I think you're spot on there. I think once you make a switch like that out of necessity, I think it'll be very difficult for companies to get back and, make a reason to go to something like E3, especially like you said, when they realize what all else they can do with the money. Now, I'm sure that these companies have crunched these numbers before, and they're aware of the amount of money they spend when they go to E3. And this feels like it could be the last little, piece of whatever you want to call it, whatever shred of whatever thread, I guess we could call, was holding E3 together. It definitely feels like the coronavirus could be the last thing that would really, just kind of break it down, and E3 would be no more, because not only would it then make business sense, but now they've done it. They've realized that they're not missing a ton from, going a different direction, and they realize that they're just going to save a ton of money and they can use that money elsewhere. I 100% agree with you. I think that it would make business sense. I hope that companies kind of put business sense aside and they going back to E3. But again, I wouldn't, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would bet that if E3 were to die, we wouldn't see it come back ever again. And that's not because E3 is not useful or anything. It's just because I think companies would realize that they were wasting money in the first place and they could have been saving it.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. I'm all with you. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And who knows? They may be able to get some kind of vaccination for this in a time frame that is logical to continue the show, and E3 goes on as it is. But I think if publishers and entities see how much they're saving right now, like at the end of the day for this, I don't know. I just can't see them going back. It's just, they'll see how much money they save, and I don't think E3 will die. I think E3, what it is now, will die. And I think E3 will just become a new PAX, will become a new Comic-Con-esque event for gaming. And I think it'll just be a fan event, which is great. I would still want to go. So it's, I'm for sure, I'm definitely going to be monitoring that very close. I'm really interested. So, Mike, let's head into the main big topic of our show. And I want to talk about cloud gaming and kind of the future of cloud gaming this year. Or the future of it, really, moving into next gen. I think there's a really big cloud over it right now. No pun, well, I guess fucking pun, yeah, pun intended. So kind of as we get closer and closer to the launch of next gen, more details on features and reasons why to invest in said new consoles are tossed around. One that seems to be really the consensus across the board in some fashion or another is cloud gaming. On one hand, it's a no-brainer, with humans becoming more and more mobile and on the move with their lives than ever before, jobs, travel, whatnot. Having the ability to both take your entertainment and, in this case, gaming needs or wants with you on multiple different formats is very tempting. But at the same time, it has the potential to section off a portion of your consumer base that still traditionally plays in front of a TV, whether the game is digitally downloaded or bought physically. So today I kind of want to talk about the feasibility, I guess, of cloud gaming right now, what both the short-term and long-term futures look like for it, and where Microsoft and Xbox kind of shakes out with this when the dust settles. So kind of just to kick off the conversation, Mike, first off, what's your experience with cloud gaming, if you have any? Have you streamed any games, whether that's Steam, xCloud, whatever, what have you? If you haven't, what makes you shy away from utilizing them compared to playing on traditional hardware? So what's your experience, I guess, with cloud gaming in general?
So I'm relatively unfamiliar with it just because I know what it is, but I just haven't utilized the technology at this point in time. Um, Not for like lack of wanting to, like, or basically like I have wanted to try it at least. But again, at the end of the day, I'm someone who didn't really mobile game at any point in time in my life because I more preferred a console or a desktop experience because I like when games run efficiently. I like games that are competitive or whatever. It's just something to that I've always wanted to, have the most reliable way of playing a game. And it does feel like cloud gaming could be somewhat unreliable because, at some point there could be connection issues that would make the streaming of the game not work as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will say with the size of video games coming out and the lack of hard drive space on home consoles and things of that nature, I do believe that we could see cloud gaming as long as it is expanded correctly, the technology is worked out appropriately, and it's more reliable. It's something that I think is going to grow, and I think people are going to get used to it because it's going to be able to prevent them from having to, fumble around and juggle what games are on their hard drive or what's on their hard drive or how much space do they need to delete for this update for Call of Duty. Like all that stuff's just going to be something of the past, it feels like. And I'm excited for it, but it's just something that I've never really utilized yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of, for the most part, I'm in the same boat of I don't want to say a ton of experience, but I have some. I've tried pretty much every style of it or every, I guess, avenue of it so far, at least, that's available right now in some capacity. I got invited to the closed beta for Project xCloud. Absolutely loved it. Didn't utilize it that much, but that's just because I'm more of a traditional gamer still. There's not many things that I choose to stream or whatnot, just because I like watching movies in a movie theater. I don't watch a ton of movies at home. I like going out to a movie theater and watching them. I don't binge watch a lot of TV shows. I just would rather play a video game instead. And luckily my fiance likes that I want to do that. Like, she can see I'm passionate about that. So, like, I just don't do a lot of that stuff. So I'd rather play a video game, and when we do that, it's traditionally just in front of a TV or handheld or whatever. But I have been using it more just because of, work and whether I'm staying over at her house one night or whatnot. Like, I don't need to drag, sometimes I don't want to drag my PS4 over if it's something we're not both going to play, or she's watching American Idol or something, and I don't necessarily want to watch that. Right now, I could use Project xCloud, which I've done before. It's great. It runs great. I've also used Remote Play for PlayStation. I've used PS Now. Was not great, but I've heard it's gotten a lot better since I've used it, and that was before Red Dead 2 launched, just because I wanted to, for some reason, my Red Dead 1 disc wasn't working, and I wanted to replay it before Red Dead 2 came out, so before I went out and just bought a new one for Xbox, I tried PS Now because it was on there, and it just did not run well. So, but Remote Play I've used when I was playing Death Stranding, and when I was working on my Uncharted 4 Platinum even, I've used it that way. I've used Steam streaming. That's hit or miss. If I have a wired connection, obviously, it does a lot better. But that's just par for the course for everything. But, playing a game like The Witcher 3 on Steam's cloud streaming service, it's interesting. It works well, but it's just designed for smaller experiences right now. But I think now that people are seeing, it's more the companies like Google and Amazon and these entities that are going to be, hey, cloud gaming is just literally all we do. That's the only thing. You never have to buy a console with us. You just have to buy a subscription or something like that, whereas literally, truly the Netflix of gaming in a sense, only you got to still buy the fucking games, which I think is asinine, but that's a different conversation. It's just at that point where it's just hard to ignore. And I think you're going to see PlayStation get in that ecosystem. You're going to see Microsoft take a bigger stab at this, which we'll kind of talk about later. But I'm one of those people that I see the allure, and I've tried it, and I don't think it's bad. I just don't think we're there yet. But I still do like it. It's weird. It's like your relationship status on Facebook when you put it's complicated. Granted, nobody fucking does that. But point being, it's there if I was going to put a tag on it. it's complicated. So, so Mike, while kind of moving on a little bit, while PC gaming really has rebounded this past decade, after kind of being like, a lot of people are like, PC gaming's kind of dead, it's niche, consoles are just taking over, yada yada. PC gaming has found its resurgence, especially, like I said, the last decade, and especially really the last half of the decade. It's pushed console gaming to its limits, period. And it's really introduced casual gamers to the idea of scalability in most titles, which is traditionally a staple in PC gaming. Do you think cloud gaming begins to solve that, whether it's through Project X Cloud using a custom-built Xbox One and even higher moving forward and streaming it from that, NVIDIA GeForce's streaming service that they just announced, or even Google Stadia, which sucks right now, but Google has a lot of money and they can fix it, using high-end gaming PCs basically to play your technology off of that you don't need to own. Do you think, that's going to push that forward, or will console gaming really just by itself start to open those accessibility features from your home, in that box that is sitting in your home? Do you think that's just going to be the standard moving forward, and console games are just, more developers are going to open those options up naturally for people?
I'd definitely like to see. I would definitely like to see Xbox One Series X and the PlayStation 5 kind of give the gamer a little bit more control over their experience in general. I know it's more streamlined on consoles and it's more like one experience fits all, which is great, but I think you should be able to give your players the options of, whether it be what resolution scale they want to play in or what settings they have the video settings on, like have it default to super high or like ultra or whatever is your max, but then give people the ability to make changes for just the straight up performance of the game in general and the system. Like, I know that the system's going to be amazing and I know it's going to be able to output some great experiences, but give me the option of turning settings down if I want a little bit more, like a little bit higher frames and a little bit more stability, because we know that whenever you have your graphical settings turned up very high, if you get into an intense situation, at times you can experience a lot of, drop off, and those huge fluctuations in FPS can negatively affect the experience. So I think giving more players the capability to make changes and customizations to the game is always the best policy, and I would like to see games definitely take that switch. And it does feel like, bringing it back to the xCloud and just cloud gaming in general, it does feel like it would almost be a necessity for cloud gaming, because you're not going to always have, the most reliable internet, or some people might have less reliable internet than another person. So giving them the capabilities of turning certain settings down to make the performance better of the cloud gaming in general seems like it would be the best thing for everybody involved. So not only should I think consoles give people a little bit more creativity and a little bit more control, I would love to see, because of the cloud gaming, I would love to see them kind of, give us that capability with the xCloud coming and just in general.
No, definitely. It's just too logical at this point. And it kind of even goes back to what we were saying about, microtransactions and going the season or the battle pass method of, people just are like, I don't want to say tired of the bullshit, but they just know, people are so in tune with what goes on in the games industry now, just one, because of social media and the internet age of always being connected and the news cycle being 24/7, and people just naturally wanting to know more and having more accessibility to knowing more. It's just at this point now that people just know what's going on, that they know that certain things are, scaled down for consoles, and PC players they can go right into their settings and change graphical settings to get the most FPS and play it at whatever scale you want. It just goes back into scalability, that I think people are just so ready for that. And, I always think of you whenever we talk about this, and your experience right off the bat with Modern Warfare early or late last year, that at launch, you're getting in, you're playing it on your launch, for all intents and purposes, your launch Xbox One. That it's just not built for that. They didn't develop that and design that game with original hardware in mind. It was more focused on, okay, we're building this game for Xbox One X, not necessarily Xbox One S or Xbox One. Like I always think about that, where it's like you're closing off a demographic of your audience that, you got to imagine that. Take, for example, just because we don't know hard numbers on the Xbox One on how many units it sold lifetime. Let's look at PlayStation. PlayStation has 104, 106 PlayStation 4s of whatever caliber out in the wild. You got to think a lot of those are either the original launch PlayStation 4 or the slim PlayStation 4, the entry level model. So you're going to tell me that, let's just say half, at least, and I think it's more than half of those people, you're going to just cut that, demographic off. You're gonna cut that number in half and say, oh no, we're appealing to, instead of, let's look at 100% of the audience, let's look at, well, we want to focus on these 50 because, maybe Sony wants us to, we have a marketing deal with Sony and they want to push PlayStation 4 Pro models, which I get, but you would make more money knowing that it's built on this hardware minimum. And I even think of, too, how Riot Games, for as much of a shitstorm as they've had and put themselves in the past, year or so, with all the, sexual harassment and whatnot, all of those issues, take that out. But look at how they presented Valorant. They've said, we're building this, that decade-old technology, decade-old PCs will, at bare minimum, they'll be able to get 30 frames per second, no matter what. Like, we're building it for that it is playable, that you can play this game no matter what you have, that you can go out and spend $100 to get a shitty PC and still be able to play it in a decent state, as you would play it on a console. That's how game development should be made, and that's that PC thing that I think cloud gaming is trying to solve, which to me makes it alluring. That if I don't say I'm, take for example your brother who is, like 8 years older than us. He has a family now, he has a kid, say he doesn't necessarily think, maybe I don't want to invest in, the $500, $600 Xbox One or Xbox Series X at launch. Maybe I don't want to do that. Oh, there's an option that I can get in for Project X Cloud, and I could pay, what is it, $20 a month or whatever? Say, like, who knows? I don't know how much they're going to charge for it, but say it's $10 to $20 a month. Well, I can get in for that, and when I want to play, I could technically, if I want to, play on the best hardware possible. It's just streamed. I don't physically have it, but I'm bought into it that I can still do it, and that solves my issues instead of, necessarily dedicating that much, where if I get in and say my Xbox One that he has doesn't hold up that long, well, it's like I don't have that much time to game anymore and this and that. You get what I'm saying? That it's like, I think that's where cloud gaming does solve that gap, but, it kind of leads into my next thing, and I'll just kind of roll into it right now. 5G is still not the norm. Most areas in the U.S. for internet don't have above like 10 megabytes a second download, like as it is, like, and let alone the advancing, 1 gigabyte found in major metro areas. Like Kyle, our producer that we like to call him, Kyle the producer, out in Philadelphia has 1 gig down like speeds, and he's able to download massive games, these, new AAA titles in like 5 minutes tops. Like, it's just not, the infrastructure for the majority of the country is not there for this, and cloud gaming relies on that so much. So is the infrastructure make it even possible for cloud gaming to enter the home in a major way in 2020, like we're talking about? We keep talking about how cloud gaming is now here almost at this point, but are we ready for cloud gaming, I guess? Is casual consumer ready to just walk in? Anybody from, middle of Iowa to, the Alaska. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Are we ready for that as a whole yet?
I feel like this is an appropriate time to say, I done told you I work out of the home. But
Shout out to Aqua Teen, man.
I definitely don't think that America for sure can handle this switch to cloud gaming.
Mhm.
There are certain cities, more urban areas that can definitely handle it. But by and large, across the countryside, there's a lot of people that are going to be left out in the cold.
Mhm.
We've talked about this on previous episodes, so I'm gonna keep it a little short here. Basically, what I'll say is I definitely think that the infrastructure or lack thereof of a quality infrastructure is going to be a huge barrier at the spread of cloud gaming to begin with.
Mhm.
And I think that it's something that as a gamers we're going to have to overcome, and you're either going to have to push a move to an urban area if you want better internet speeds, which is what people have had to do in the past, or just be very patient as you wait, because it's taking a long time for fiber and things of that nature to get out to the more rural areas. And
Mhm.
even where we live, I mean, we don't live that rural. I mean, we're like 40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's not the biggest city, but our internet choices out here are horrible. So
Yeah.
I think by and large, we're all going to be kind of up a creek without a paddle, because the majority of the population there is a majority of population that lives inside the urban cities. We see that with popular votes with the presidency. We see that there can be situations where someone would win, but they lose the popular vote. That
Mhm.
happened in the most recent election, because a lot of the population is in the urban areas, but there are still a ton of people out there that are in rural areas, and it feels like it's going to affect that demographic more,
Mhm.
because basically what you're thinking, or what I'm thinking of here, is people who live out by themselves have a lot less interaction. You live in a city, you have a ton of stuff that you're able to do.
Right.
There's a ton of more opportunities for you, and way better, or not better ways to spend your time, but there's more ways to spend your time.
And then
Whereas
there's
when you're,
us. We're out in the
yeah,
fucking boonies. All we gotta do is we can just fucking go outside, hit a couple of sticks together, or we can sit inside and play video games.
right. So
you
you're
get what
talking-
I'm being extreme, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, basically, like, you're looking at a situation where people are going to, especially in rural areas, you want to spend time playing video games because there's a lot less for you to do.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. It just boggles my mind how, and like I said, maybe it's because we're outside of that ecosystem right now of, like, producer Kyle is able to, he's able to download games at a gig per second. Like, it's at that speed where he doesn't have to worry about that. He has what the best internet possible is right now, for the most part, at least, in our country, that it just, like, even for example, up until a handful of years ago, my grandma was literally only able to get dial-up internet. Period. Like, and we're talking in the 2010s. Like, what the fuck? Like, how, like, technology's trying to, I think, move past what our infrastructure is ready for yet. Or if that's the case, like, the infrastructure needs to catch up, but who knows if it's able to. It's just such a big question that, 5G is not the norm still. Like, they're pushing 5G, but 5G is not the norm. Not everybody can get that. Like, yes, dense areas can, but population may be there, but the area is still our country is so massive that that still is exiling so many people in so many places across the country. And I'm not even, at this point, I'm not even talking video games. I'm talking health. It affects healthcare. It affects communication. It affects all these other things that I think you're exiling so many people that way. But in terms of gaming, like, I just think, I hope I'm wrong, and it seems like Microsoft is doing great things, and I mean great things on their end to be able to put Project xCloud in the proper path to have success all around, or at least the best possible experience for no matter what you have. That the tech on their end is the best possible way for you to have the best connection on their end. That it still puts, you still have to have a legitimately decent connection to be able to stream games and download these games and yada yada. But at least on their end, they're trying to appeal to, in what they keep talking about, they just want people to be able to get into their ecosystem no matter how they're playing. So they're putting the onus on no matter what, we just want you to have a good experience, bar none, on this. So at least on their back end, they're positioning it right. But it's just really interesting to see how this is going to be handled, say 3 years from now, whenever we're fully in the next generation of consoles. And where's that go? Like, where's Project xCloud at? Where is, Steam's new streaming service? Where, because they'll have one. Where is Google Stadia still a thing? Was it able to survive? Was it able to thrive now that potentially everyone has better internet connection, or at least the infrastructure is there to be able to have a better internet connection? On top of that, too, we didn't even talk about, your ISPs. They're data capping people. It's not a small amount of data that it takes to stream games. Like, people have data caps. They're going to hit that fucking quick. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something that, as long as most ISPs won't really bug you unless you hit over a certain amount. But let's talk about, like, me, where I live. I have hit 600 gigabytes in a month, which isn't really all that much if you're streaming videos and whatever else you're doing. Plus pitch in streaming a couple of days, using a lot of upload bandwidth that way when you're streaming. Like, you are going to hit these limits. There are going to, you're going to get letters from your ISP saying, like, you use too much internet, stop using as much. And it's like, bro, what do I pay for? And it's going to be an issue that, it really should be illegal that your bandwidth's limited. Like, there should never be a limit to your bandwidth, because you're paying for a service at the end of the day. And it's not really, it might be in the fine print when they set you up, but it should be pretty point blank. Like, basically you should tell them that, like, or you should be told when you're signing up for the service, like, this is your data cap. Like, this is what you have. Like the internet, or like the cell phone providers used to do when there were a lot of limited data. Like, you get 2 gigs, that's it. Like, ISPs don't really tell you that. They wait till you get so far, and then they start doing, like, Comcast in this area, since they have my area in particular blocked out, they're hell for, like, just rolling blackouts. Like, 1:30 p.m., I'll be watching something on Netflix and the internet just stops and everything just stops. And it's like, what the hell? And, like, I'll even, like, it's happened to me on stream sometimes. Like, I'll be streaming and then my internet just cuts out for like 2 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a big deal to them, because if no one's on in this area and they just do a rolling blackout, 2 minutes of internet of bandwidth save for them is worth the risk of people being upset. But, like, I can't do anything about it. If I go to Comcast and say, what the hell, I'm getting hit with these rolling blackouts, what's going on? They're just going to say, well, okay, we'll find another ISP. And I'm going to be like, well, you have the area blocked off. And they're like, I know. And you're just like, well, fuck, okay, monopolied,
Right.
This is the type of shit that the government's supposed to protect you from. And I don't want to get political on the entire podcast ever. This isn't a place to talk politics, but it feels like a situation where the government's kind of supposed to protect you. And, Democrat, Republican, whatever your leaning is, it just feels like we aren't being protected from this kind of bullshit, basically.
Right. No, totally agree. And I think that's a excellent way.
And it's not even like you can say competition makes perfect for everyone. Like, competition is the best thing. Like, sure, I agree. Like, there should be competition, but when an ISP has an area blocked out, that's not an option. You can't use competition to protect yourself.
100%.
Inner cities, urban areas like Pittsburgh, you can go to Verizon, you can go to Comcast. In different cities, there's different providers, but where we live, we don't have that option to just use competition to check them on their bullshit, basically.
No, totally agree. I think that's an excellent way to cap off that portion of the conversation. You said it best. I literally can't even respond to that. Totally agree. So, kind of transitioning to more of Microsoft specific, I guess. We continuously hear rumblings that Microsoft is going to sell 2 SKUs at launch this fall when they kick off the next gen. Project Scarlet, now the Xbox Series X, which will be the beefy big dick swinging box that is going to scale up to 8K and do 4K 60 and blah blah blah. Like, great. And then also Project Lockhart, which is supposed to be more value-friendly, an entry-level box for the gamer in your life. Would you be shocked if Lockhart is revealed, when I was kind of putting these questions together, I was like, say at E3 this year. fuck, we probably may not see it at E3, at least in a, live sense. Say at E3 they revealed this year, and it's the equivalent of a Chromecast or Apple TV, or i.e. streaming box for Project xCloud, or a streaming version of Game Pass. Would you be shocked by that? Does that have an audience in 2020 on a mass consumer level? Would people be willing to go out and say, forgo that, or forgo the Xbox Series X or a traditional console to, even if it is a smaller audience? Do you think there's going to be that audience that just says, no, I just want a little stick that plugs into the back of my TV, or a tiny box that I don't have to buy game discs for. I just pay $20 a month and I can stream whatever game I want?
There might be. So this is like, you remember like as a kid, because our parents weren't really good with technology, and they're still not very good with technology, even though your dad did hit me with the happy birthday Mike on Facebook, which I was proud of Rich for.
In all caps?
I'll let him know that when I respond. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll let him know that I'm proud of him. But basically, do you remember like being a kid, like you would tell your parents you want something hip and cool?
Yeah.
And hip and cool I'm using as just like an example for literally anything that's not what old people like. If I told my parents to go buy me a record, they would get the right one. But if I told them to buy me a CD, they had no fucking clue like what was going on. Like, do you remember how like your parents would get you the wrong thing? And you would be like, oh, this is great.
Right.
Thank you. And you would just do it through your teeth, because like as a little kid, you got to the age where you're being a spoiled brat if you cry about it, but at the same time you want to be like, you didn't get me the wrong, or you didn't even get me the right thing. Like, that's like the type of parent that I see getting this system.
Yeah.
If that's the case. But again, not only those types of people that are just going to like be like, oh, like this Xbox is $300 less and we have high speed internet. Who cares? Like, little Johnny won't notice and it'll be the same thing. Like, I see that being a nice thing for parents that want to save money and might not be able to afford the full system. Because don't get me wrong, like, I'm not in a position that I have children that I could even relate to that.
Right.
I'm sure there's people out there that have that problem, which, good for you. You're providing what you can for your kid, and the necessities is much more important than video games and things of that nature. And again, we're not going to get into the whole income inequality. Like, we're not talking about politics on this show. It'll never happen, even though this almost leads you, like, walks you in by the hand to talk about politics.
Yeah.
This just is never going to be a show about that. And I'm so thankful that both of us feel that way about it. Mm-hmm. But it definitely feels like if someone is budget friendly or budget conscious, it definitely seems like it would be something that someone could go for, because if you're just looking to save money and still get a pretty solid experience, if you're not a hardcore enthusiast, it does seem like a reasonable avenue to take. If you have a reliable internet source and you don't really care so much about having the best gaming experience, you just kind of want to be sat at the table. It seems like something that would be reasonable for people to enjoy.
Yeah. No, I totally wouldn't be shocked if they came out and said, having basically, especially right now too, you got to think with them, as we've been saying, their thing is more just getting people into their ecosystem. And with them coming out and saying, oh, the Xbox One is still going to be a viable option in 2020 and beyond, at least for the time being, that does leave okay, well, they don't necessarily need to have the Xbox One X kicks a lot of ass currently. Like,
right.
It's the beefiest console that's on the market now. Is the Xbox Series X double the power in that? Absolutely. But there doesn't necessarily need to be something right in between there, because there's already such a broad spectrum of what's available now that if they came out and just said we're releasing a streaming box, basically, for all intents and purposes, that wouldn't blow me away. Like, that'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Like, that literally covers such a broad spectrum of people that, I mean, you're already seeing Google Stadia. If you have a Chromecast Ultra, you're able to stream Google Stadia games on there and play them, bar none. Like, period. You could do that. At least I think you can at this point. I know that's part of the pitch. I don't know if they've released that part yet, but I would imagine. I know they were releasing that part, but who the fuck knows? Google Stadia is just in a bad state. But it just wouldn't shock me. Like, it just seems like it makes so much sense that would literally have every corner of the market covered for them for at least a short-term aspect. For the next 3 years, I would say, because they'll probably still be selling Xbox Ones to a degree for at least another year and a half, 2 years, I would say.
Right.
At least as that entry-level model in terms of the Xbox One X, they'd be selling that. But it wouldn't shock me. It definitely wouldn't shock me. So just kind of rounding off the conversation, Mike, I want to read a quote from Phil Spencer from a recent sit-down that he had with Insomniac CEO Ted Price that we talked about last week a little bit with one of our news articles, where he was speaking on getting past the hurdles of developing games for multiple devices, or multiple levels of device. So Phil says, once you get through the pragmatics of making a game playable on multiple screen sizes, then you get to the promise, Spencer said. You start talking about, well, wait a minute, now if my game isn't just dependent on the one piece of hardware that someone maybe bought 5 years ago in the home, but actually something that a large cloud provider is updating on the back end and is scalable, then what can I do with our games? That's a very cool future up and down. How do we scale the cloud computer to the creative experience that somebody wants to deliver? So I ask this, does Microsoft ever get to a point in their participation in the gaming medium where they start specifically developing games with streaming in mind first and foremost? Or is that still pie in the sky, a pipe dream, millions of miles away still? Do we see that mindset of, we're going to primarily see this game be streamed compared to being bought in store? We're developing that with this game with that in mind.
Yeah,
or at least in the quote-unquote short term, talking 5 years, say.
Yeah, this is something that, I've been kind of beating this drum for a few weeks on the show, basically asking for customization whenever it comes to my particular experience with certain games on Xbox. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like the cloud would be a good excuse to give developers a reason to allow me to select what I want. Even if it's not going a game like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, even if I had a beefy computer, I go in and I turn everything down to low because I want the most static, I want my FPS to be high and I want it to maintain a high level of FPS, right? That's my particular experience. Even if I'm enjoying it from a casual standpoint, which I don't know if casual gaming exists to me. Even at 27, I have a really hard time not trying to win at everything I do. So it's something that as a competitive gamer and as someone who enjoys having a competitive experience, being able to customize controls or customize the video settings and making things run more consistently, that's much more appealing to me than a beautiful experience, at least when it comes to certain types of games. If it's not, I don't think it's as hard as Phil Spencer is. I think consoles are getting so much closer to PCs that at some point in time, maybe not this generation, but like you said, in 5 years in the next generation, a company could make a game that would run on a PC that'll run on your Xbox. And on the PC, you'll have the option to go ultra, high, medium, low, very low, turn off shaders, all that kind of stuff. But on the Xbox, you would only have the option to be high or have cinematic or performance. You know what I mean? Right. There would be two options, and those are the only two. I would be completely fine if that was the case. Maybe don't give me all these millions of options that the normal person's not going to care about, but at least give me the option to select performance. And then from there, maybe be maybe if once I select performance, it opens a new menu that lets me kind of turn certain things off to see how it works, versus just throwing some casual player in there and then giving them a million options. That doesn't help anyone. Just give me the option to turn it on performance. Once we go to performance, then I can change, what settings I want from there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As much as I'm saying, oh, we're not ready for this, it's going to happen no matter what. I mean, we can sit here and say, oh yeah, we're not ready. The infrastructure's not there. The download speeds aren't there. The availability of it for the majority of the country, I guess, in terms of land space is not there, yada yada. it's happening one way or another. They've already started moving in that direction. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen sooner or later, and it's going to happen to the point where we get a game like a Fortnite, a Call of Duty, maybe not the traditional, maybe it's not the, mainline entry in Call of Duty, but it may be, a side story type thing where they put just as much resources into it, or a product that lives alongside that's maybe a multiplayer component. Well, maybe not multiplayer component, because that'd be, I don't think that just would not work overall for streaming. But say Call of Duty gets to a point where it goes free to play, and where you're in this style, like a Fortnite, where you're buying a battle pass and that's how you pay for it. The install base is so huge, yada yada, that they say, okay, well, we are going to develop a single player component to it, but you could stream it. It's only available on streaming services or something like that. I don't think that's that radical to think about in 5 years. I don't think by the time we're halfway through this console generation, that's not a pipe dream, pie in the sky type thing. But it would have to be. I don't think we'll ever get to the point, at least in the next 10 years, where a Blizzard, a Riot, a Valve, where they feel competent and comfortable enough that they can produce and put out a product that's multiplayer heavy, where the main focus is multiplayer, and just stream it. There's no way. Like, the latency would be too much of an issue. Anything involving the, like, tick rate and stuff like that, like, it's just, there's just no way that would make sense. I don't know. That's just me, but I just can't ever say. I could see single player content for sure, because it's just going to happen. We're going to get to a point where, we saw this generation, everyone's moving from physical to digital, which is fine. That makes sense, because it's cheaper to do that. It gives developers more money in their pockets compared to, the cost of producing a disc and yada yada. And it's just becoming more convenient for the consumer at the end of the day too. Like I said, you can get price cuts on games a lot quicker. Now granted, price cuts in physical are starting to happen more because that market's down, so you're seeing more games drop a little bit quicker, but being readily available, consumers are ready for that, and it's almost because of Amazon and shopping means like that just people are just ready for that. It's eventually going to be the next thing where streaming is just it. That's what it is. Streaming's right there. That's the main thing that you do for it, and it's inevitable. I mean, that's just, and hopefully the technology is, when we get to that point where people are clamoring for that, it's ready to go and people are able to do it seamlessly. But I think we're taking, it's like one step forward, 2 steps back, or even in a positive manner, we're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, where it's like we're pushing out this content, but it just may not be there yet. We're just, I think, getting a little too antsy, if that's even the right way to put it. I don't fucking know. I just want to play video games. I just want video games to be whenever you or I or whoever start up a game, it works, doesn't matter how you get it, and people aren't getting fucked over on the back end because of it, and the consumers aren't getting fucked over either. People are just able to play video games. It doesn't matter how you get them, just as long as you're able to play them, and you're able to play them in the right way. And I just don't want to see... cloud gaming excites me as kind of, I don't want to say I'm negative, but I'm more glass half empty right at this point, I guess, with cloud gaming being shoved down our throats. At the same time, I'm very excited about the future of it, because it's going to get to a point where when the next Halo or the next PlayStation side, the next Uncharted, whatever comes out, I have the PlayStation app and I can just pull it up at some point. And then, if I got to worry about, I got to take little Johnny at that point, Travis Jr., God forbid, I don't want to know what that fucking kid looks like. Got to take Travis Jr. to T-ball practice, and, and we're in a rain delay. If he wants to play or I want to play, we want to play whatever together, we could just pull up the PlayStation, Xbox app, whatever, on our phone, and boom, we're both in there playing together, and it's seamless. Like, we're going to get to a point like that, and that's fucking awesome. Because it's just seamless. Everything works. But I think people are just thinking that's a lot closer than it is. And I think it's almost like a reality check people need to have with it, that shouldn't give false hope to, or you shouldn't have false hope with that's going to be like turning around, that's going to happen this instant or within the next 2 years, that's all we're going to be doing. I just don't think that's going to happen. So, cloud gaming, Mike. Cloud gaming. What happened? Back in our day, we used to put in NHL Hits 2002 and just fucking play the game, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And you would get games on launch day and they just like worked. Like there was no big patch because it wasn't an option.
Right.
I think, again, like I've said this before, so I'm not going to like get up on a soapbox and because I know I'm preaching to the choir because I know everyone feels this way.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I just don't think you should be releasing broken games and then relying on day one updates. Like it just shouldn't be an option. And I know internet reliability has gotten better, so it lets devs do things like that. But I think it's just poor form. I think, everyone knows that when you release garbage content, whether it be like, I have to crunch and get this paper turned in. Like I'm doing a 8-page paper that's due tonight at midnight and I just started at 8 p.m. Like, that paper is not going to be that good. So when you get your poopy grade, you shouldn't be like, oh my God. Like, how dare they? And I know gaming is not the equivalent of making a video game is not the same. Like that's not a equivalent, comparison. I know it's a lot longer than just a simple 3 or 4 hour grind. Like don't like take it as me comparing
as gospel.
Spending 4 hours on a paper versus a video game. I know there's a lot of other moving parts that go into it, but whenever you just are willing to release something crappy and just throw it out there and rely on updates, Call of Duty did that. Trust me, I've played Call of Duty recently, and it's actually kind of an enjoyable experience now. But you released the game how many months ago, and just like February and January, it's playable. Like that's not good for anybody involved. The only thing that's keeping your game alive, besides like the people that enjoy to like camp with shotguns or rush around with shotguns and camp with claymores, are the people that are playing it competitively, which, like, thank God for the esports side of it, because they're driving that market so far up. And I think Halo will do that now that the esports engine has taken over running the Halo events. I think the new Halo World Championship with Infinite is going to do that for us. But just like the cloud gaming, the internet, like all this kind of stuff makes me scared as a consumer, because it's concerning. It's concerning that people will allow poor form games to get released because they're going to rely on software. Like, it's all scary, and I just hope like none of this comes to fruition, because us all as gamers, it's really just going to hurt us, and I just don't want it to be that way.
Agreed. Totally agree, man. I at the end of the day, it's going to give developers a bad rap, because they may be working to bust their ass as hard as they can, because we talk about, hey, we don't want crunch and this and that, that's bad, but publishers sometimes force dates on people that you have to hit it no matter what. We need this on.
There has to be an end date at some point, right?
Right.
Like,
right,
you can't
100%.
just keep pushing it back. Like the 007 movie, I know we don't talk about movies on here, and maybe someday that'd be a podcast we might dive into, because it would be fun to talk about. But they're pushing back 007 for, I'm sure, a lot of reasons. And whatever the reasons are, we can believe them. But like pushing a date back from March or April to November, now you get to November and you're like, well, we're going to push it back again. Then people are going to be like, now, wait a minute.
Right.
I was completely cool with the first one, but there is going to be that day that comes, and it's like the death knell. Like, it come hell, high water, whatever the hell happens. Like, if a meteor strikes Earth, you have to release this game. Like, I don't care what happens if the apocalypse happens. This is the date.
Right.
And games have hard dates like that, especially when they're being funded by like Microsoft. 343 might have hard dates, but at the end of the day, Microsoft's learned their lesson, and all these other developers or companies had to have learned their lessons and realized, like, when you release poop games, like, it does nothing for anybody. Nobody buys it. Nobody wants to buy it. They're returning it. Nobody's getting paid for the work. You're out a ton of money, and nobody buys it later because they don't trust you.
Right.
That, and brand trust is a huge thing, and we've talked about that at length on our pod, but it's definitely concerning as a gamer, and it's not all doom and gloom. I know sometimes, whenever you listen to podcasts like that, it can definitely sound like we are being doom and gloom, like there's no better thing, like we're screwed. That's not what we're trying to say. I think we both are very concerned, and we just want everyone's enjoyment of video games to stay the same, and we don't want to lose out on experiences because of it.
No, definitely. 100%, my man. I totally agree. It's such a complicated ball of wax, and the cloud gaming stuff's only going to just make it even more complicated. But it's exciting, but it's exciting but scary. Just as somebody like both of us, we've been gaming for so long now, for the vast majority of our life, that it's
Yep.
you know it one way, and I'm all for progressiveness with making things, trying new things that may work better, may change some things. I'm all for that and trying new things, but I just am afraid of annexing certain people in certain consumer bases. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes. But Mike, I think that's going to do it for our show this week. Why don't you tell us, birthday boy, where people can find you, one, to wish you a happy birthday. Go out there and wish Mike a happy birthday. Like I said, it's going to be a couple days late, but it still doesn't matter. Go show him some sweet, nasty love. Tell him happy birthday, And then you could also tell him all about what you guys are playing, yada yada, talk about playing some games with them, whatever. Mike, where can people do that on the internet with you?
Absolutely. So basically, like Travis said, it's birthday. I waited till the very end to plug this because it's not about me, even though it's my birthday. The show's about the two of us and
Plug
sharing
your
it
shit,
with you
dude.
guys. But no, this is not really a big plug for my own stuff. This is just a plug in general as a human being. Not to be sensational or anything, but the health scare with the coronavirus, everything of that nature, mental health, everything. Recently, I've dealt with some stuff mental health wise, gone on some medicine. I know Travis, we all have dealt with demons, and I don't want to share anyone's information or anything of that nature, but I have cousins, I have my brother, like we all go through personal battles mental health wise. So for my birthday, all I would like is for people to be a little bit more understanding for mental issues, whether it be anxiety, depression, all those types, any type of mental disorder, attention deficit, things of that nature. I just wish people in the gaming world, especially, because when people talk about Adderall use or abusing of drugs of that nature for performance, I think that there's a stigma that comes around with using the use of ADD pills or ADHD medicine, that for the users that need it, it's really hurtful to see people throw around and make fun of people. And addiction's a real thing. So not only are people using these drugs to get a better performance or perform better at tournaments, but you can also get addicted to it. So I just want you to think about anybody that you've ever met that has an addiction, whether it be to alcoholism, anything of that nature, mental health, whether it be anxiety, taking pills to cope, things of that nature, or natural medicine, whether it be, marijuana or other types of natural medicine. Even just going out and seeing the sun sometimes when you're depressed can be a better alternative than pills. So I just want everyone to be aware that mental health is a real thing. And, with the coronavirus, I just want everyone to be healthy. I want everybody to be washing their hands. I don't want anyone to be scared, because this is a time that as humans, not even as Americans or Canadians or, United Kingdomers or England, whatever they call themselves, or Australians, like with their wildfires, like this isn't a time where we need to be nationalists and be proud of our nationality. Like by all means, be proud of where you're from and what you did to get to where you are. But we just need to be global citizens right now and just realize that people in China can't really help what has happened. So I just want everyone to, be aware that discrimination, whether it be mental health, that's basically my big platform, or, racial issues with, Chinese, the Chinese spread of the coronavirus. Like, I just want everyone to love everyone. Try to be not judgmental on people, because there's people dying from these sicknesses every day. They're real things. I just want us to be cognizant that making memes and edgy memes can be cool and can get you clout, but being a clout farmer on the internet isn't it, Chief. There's a lot better things you can do with your life. And I hope you know that, everyone just needs to love everyone and just support everyone, because everyone's going through things. And, sometimes you just need help, and there's always help available. So if you need that, please reach out to me at TOYSXLDIER on Twitter, MP_Toy Soldier on Twitch. I know I can be edgy. I know I can, have a harsh sense of humor, but it's also my way of coping with certain issues that I have. I can just make jokes about it, because if I can't make jokes about it, it's too real to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that everyone just loves everyone. Everyone has a great week. Everyone has a great springtime's right around the corner. So keep your head up. Seasonal depression's real. We're almost out of this tunnel, especially in the Northeast. Just keep your head up, because the flowers are going to come up soon. And I just hope, you can just find your own happiness.
Absolutely. That was absolutely beautiful, my friend. I love you. You're one of my best friends. You're a hardworking individual, and, that's... I can't say anything else, man. That was absolutely beautiful, and I totally agree. So... I can't even roll off of that. I'm just going to roll exactly what he said. Take that. I can't say it any better, man. I'm just going to roll into my thing.
Yep. Just tell us where you can find us then, my dude.
Exactly. As always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travis, on most internet platforms, including Twitter at Travels_. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time over on twitch.tv/Travels_, same as Twitter. And if you want to play some video games with me, like Halo CE, now that it's on, the anniversary edition on MCC, baby, on PC or Xbox Live in general, you can find me over on Xbox Live at just regular Traveless. That's TRAVLESS. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode, the newest episode of the Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games, like our dope giveaways like our Doom Eternal giveaway. You have 1 week left, less than 1 week. By the time this goes, less than 1 week. By next Thursday, you got to make sure you're entered. There's no excuse. The link, look down below. It's in the description. Just fucking enter. With that being said, Mike, that's going to be our show for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, sharing, and being part of this growing community. Go out there and play some video games, and we will see you next week.